This evening, we read from the book of Job in our first reading. And the book of Job is one that is difficult at times to get through, but is a very important one for forming us in our faith, and especially for forming our understanding of suffering and how suffering works as people of faith for us. Job is a righteous man, a good man, and he has many blessings. He has a wife, he has many children, he has many livestock and possessions, many servants. And so Satan speaks to God and challenges him, saying that Job would not be such a good man, he wouldn't be such a righteous man if he didn't have all these blessings. And so the Lord allows him to play this out, to challenge Job in this way. And so in an instant, Job loses everything: his wife, his children, his many possessions, his many servants. He loses it all. The Lord tells Satan only not to touch Job himself. And so Job loses everything. And in an instant, his life is completely changed. Because of this, 3 friends of Job come to visit him. And for a week, no one says anything. They simply sit in the midst of that loss. But finally, these friends of Job all challenge him, thinking that he must have sinned, he must have done something wrong, he must have deserved this in one way or another. But Job continues to defend himself, saying he hasn't done anything wrong. He hasn't sinned, but he's been good to God. He's been a righteous man. And so finally, Job begins to question all of this. If he hasn't sinned, why has this happened to him? He hasn't deserved this. He doesn't understand why. He asks that question that all of us ask at one time or another in our lives. Why? And finally, God's answer comes. But it doesn't come maybe in the way we would want, to give some sort of explanation that explains it all, that makes sense of such great loss, such great suffering. But instead, God's answer is simply to remind Job that he is Job and God is God. And we pick up there in our reading, our first reading today, that the Lord addresses Job out of the storm, and he says to him, who put the limits to the sea? Who decided where the land would end and the sea begin? Who put all the animals throughout the world? Who created the world? Of course, it was God. All these great actions that we as human beings don't fully understand, and we certainly aren't capable of making happen ourselves. It's a reminder to Job that you are not God, and you can't pretend to think you can understand the depths of the mystery of how the world works. You are not God, and so you can't comprehend how all these things work together, how suffering takes place, how justice is manifest. You can't pretend to understand because you do not have the depths of God's knowledge, the depths of his understanding. And so what the Lord calls Job to is simply to suspend his judgment, to put off trying to figure out how this suffering could possibly make sense, why it would come to pass. Because those types of questions are beyond our understanding as human beings. They're beyond our ability to comprehend and to know. But rather, they are in the realm of one as powerful and as almighty and all-knowing as God. This is an answer, and it may not be the answer that satisfies us for that question of why, but it is an answer. That the answer of why goes beyond our understanding. It is a mystery for you and I. That if we want to understand why innocent people suffer, why bad things happen in the world, well, then we have to enter into the mystery of God. We have to go deeper into who God is and try to enter into a deeper relationship with him. All of this picks up once again in our gospel today as the disciples are in the boat with Jesus and Jesus is asleep. And once again, a great storm happens. It comes about to the point where the disciples are afraid for their own lives. And once again, it is only God who can command the sea, who can tell it where to begin and where to end, that can tell the wind how to act, that commands all these things into being. And so the Lord is able to stop all these things. And this manifests that he, Jesus Christ, is God, that he is the one who set all these things in motion, that Jesus, the Son of God, is there in that boat with them. And so he does this not only to manifest that he is divine, that he is God, but also Jesus' work, his mission, is to reveal God to us. And so what does he reveal beyond what is revealed in the book of Job? The disciples question him. They say, "Teacher, do you not care? Do you not care that we are perishing?" What Jesus reveals is not only that he is God, and he is that one who can calm the storm, that he is the one that commands all these things into being, but what Jesus reveals is something even more. That question, do you care? In some ways, it's more important than the question of why. Why does this happen? Why does suffering take place? What we want to know even more is, does God care? Does he continue to care for us, for those in our lives who suffer, for the sick, for those who are perishing? Do you care? And it is this question, even more than simply if they were to ask, Jesus, can you stop all this? That is a question of their faith. This is why Jesus rebukes them, not just because they have doubted that he's able to calm the storm, but that the disciples have doubted that God cares, that Jesus cares for them in the midst of their suffering, in the midst of the danger and the peril. And so what the Lord calls us to today is to a renewed faith in the face of the suffering of this world, the difficulties of this world. A renewed faith that even though we do not understand how or why these things take place, a faith that God cares, that he is present in the midst of the storm, that he does not forget us, that our suffering is not nothing to him, but he, in the midst of all of this, in ways we are not capable of understanding, in ways that are still mysterious to us in our poor human reason, God cares, and he is present. And so we ask the Lord on this day to give us a deeper faith, a greater faith, that God cares, that even though we may still go through suffering, that we have not lost the Lord's presence, but he continues to care for each one of us.